Hello everyone, I'm Nesma Mustafa and I'm your host for today, Empowering Future in MENA, a webinar for agents and counselors. Today's webinar is to support agents and counselors who are working on guiding students into higher education, particularly UK higher education. This webinar is in partnership with the British Universities International Liaison Association, BUILA, UCAS, as well as UKVISA and Immigration. Today's agenda is packed. We have a brief overview about the Agents and Counselors Hub and why studying in the UK, also by myself, followed by the Asian Quality Framework and universities that have pledged to commit to the Asian Quality Framework by our guest speaker, Asmat Abu Shihab, Regional Hub Director, University of Bradford, Dubai, and Director of BUILA, MENA Regional Interest Group. Welcome, Asmat. We're glad to have you here. Followed by that, UCAS over. Yeah, here's Asmat.
Hi, thank you, Nesma, for having me.
Thank you for being here. UCAS overview of undergraduate cycle comes third, and that's by Becca Horsley. Is Becca here yet? International Customer Success Partner, UCAS, followed by Student Visa Journey by Martin Foltz, Engagement Team Leader at UKVI. And then we'll close with a feedback session from yourself to hear from you. How did you find the webinar? And share with you news that we have in country and the region. Thank you so much for being here. Let us get to it. All right, so I'm essentially going to speak to you about the agent engagement and training hub, agent and counselor engagement and training hub, but also thought, because of your questions in the registration form, to cover why UK higher education in the first place. Quickly, very briefly. So first of all, the studying in UK's reputation has the positive reputation of academic excellence and quality of teaching. Great universities give you space to grow, give your students space to grow, employability and career opportunities, and then student experience is great. Let's break that down a bit. So academic excellence, we mean by the UK is home to 2 of the world's top 4 universities, and 26 are in the top 200 best institutions for learning. That's based on QS ranking. UK universities have one of the most diverse subject offerings in the world, with more than 50,000 undergraduate courses. More than 1 in 3 undergraduate students who study in the UK obtain a first-class degree. Another evidence of academic excellence and quality of education in the UK, more than a fifth of the UK's teaching staff is from overseas, creating a wealth of international experience to students to draw upon. And then there's the employability and career prospect that many of you mentioned in your registration forms. UK graduates are among the most employable in the world. Employability, this is according to top universities' employability ranking. The majority of international students who have studied in the UK report experiencing a significant competitive edge over their peers. Then we come to the last point of why study in the UK, student experience. The UK is one of the most trusted and popular study destinations in the world. Over than 600,000 undergraduates and postgraduates choose to study in the UK. The UK has a wide range of top-class galleries, museums, cinemas, and more. And what's more, most of them are free for general entry and, of course, for students. So let me see. Yeah. What do we have here? Do we have anything in the chat that we should attend to? All right. All right. Let me then move to the other part of our presentation today, which is a brief about the Agents and Counselors Hub and our work with agents and counselors in MENA. First of all, who are agents? Our definition of agents. And an agent is defined as an individual who works on commercial basis to help students and their parents gain places in study programs overseas. These could be working with particular institutions or working independent of educational institutions, or even non-educational specialists, for example, travel agents and publishers who have products or some in some way support students study overseas. Let me minimize this. What about a counselor? So this is also the professional who works at schools to provide academic, career, college access, and affordability. So basically anyone working with students, guiding them into higher education, whether within a school or independently of a school as an agent. And we encourage all those who have a role in counseling students around international education to partake in our training and engagement hub. So we recognize that some schools do not have counselors or counseling services, but other educators support students make decisions about their career. So why we at the British Council work with agents and counselors? Because of one key aspect, which is student experience. We're very keen on supporting students who come to the UK or go to the study in the UK, have a positive experience from the first day of making a decision. And they make a decision with agents and through the support of agents and counselors. We're keen that all international students studying in the UK get the best possible experience from the very beginning of the journey until they graduate and become UK alumni. And we recognize that agents and counselors are key to this experience. All right, so that's establishing who we work with to support international student experience. How do we work with agents and counselors? Let me see a show of hands of how many of you are already on the Agents and Counselors Hub. I know many who registered today were already on the Agents and Counselors Hub, but who is here and now? So hands up if you're on our Agents and Counselors training hub. All right. More coming up. 8. Interesting, because I saw like many heard of the event from the hub, so it's interesting. All right, let me go back. I'm glad you're already on the hub. Who is here to learn about the hub? Give us a reaction, a thumbs up reaction. I'm here to learn about the Agents and Counsel Training Hub. Hands down, everyone. A few, quite a few. Nice. All right, and you're here. We'll cover that or just now. So, okay, what is the Agents and Counselors Hub? The Hub is a platform that provides a one-stop shop for agents and counselors to engage with the UK as a study destination. And that's what's in offer. We have training and assessment for agents and counselors covering, I'll show you exactly what it covers. We have communication and toolkits to support their engagement with prospective students to study in the UK. So you have videos to show your students, materials that are branded that you could use, toolkits, there's plenty of them on the hub, and then through Study UK, and then events and webinar like this one are announced on the hub, particularly for agents and counselors. There's going to be, and there is, research and insights that can help you support your students better, and then announcements and updates from the UK government and the UK sector bodies. Who can join this platform? We got questions like that, like what is the process of joining the hub and what is needed to join the hub? Who can join the hub? Who can join the hub? Agents, as we mentioned earlier, school counselors, and anyone that has a role engaging international students about the UK as a study destination. And how do you do it? So basically, there are 4 steps. You log into this link. If colleagues will be sharing the link to Agents and Counselor Hub in a bit in the chat. You could use this link to register on the hub completely for free, and then complete your information, and then sign. Then you go on the hub, you sign the code of conduct, start your training, complete your training, and then complete all your assessments. And then voila, you are a certified UK agent or counselor. How does the hub look like? This is a snapshot from the Agent and Counselor Engagement Hub. So you'll find the National Code of Ethics, Ethical Practice for UK Education Agents. You'll find the training itself and its assessment, Agent Quality Framework that Ismat will walk us through in a bit, marketing, the Study UK marketing resources that we mentioned, as well as other information that you'll find useful. But what's on the training? And this is interesting for those who don't know about our course, our offering for agents and counselors. First of all, this is a very flexible kind of training, and it covers everything you want, or at least will cover everything you want to know about UK as a study destination. So you could, if for agents and counselors who are more experienced, you could just go through the modules, complete the assessments, make sure you're good with them, and then you're certified. Or if you want to learn about everything about the UK higher education sector from the beginning, you could take module by module and then take the assessment. So there's a lot of flexibility in learning. But then what the course covers includes why choose the UK education system, preparing students for UK education, student experience, values and ethics, visa and immigration, post-study options, and working with the British Council, as well as the assessment. And in the registrations, I also saw that many of you asked about, particularly about post-study options. And you also asked about accommodations for international students, which is going to come up soon in our content boost. That's what I'm going to share with you now. So coming up soon, we have content boost for employability, but also later on for accommodations. So stay tuned. If you already are on the hub and have completed your training, there's more to come. And the more to come, that is based on what you need to do and what you've shared with us. You need to know to support your students. So the content boost coming up for employability soon, you'll be notified through the hub about it. Includes university career services in the UK, employment recruitment process, UK graduate labour market, institutional employability, graduate outcomes, and higher education employability terminology. Why get certified? So this is the UK agent and counselor certification, the only one that is internationally recognized as having achieved the high standard, that will help you be internationally recognized as having achieved a high standard of knowledge and awareness about the UK. You'll be listed on publicly available list, our database of certified agents. I'll show you a sneak peek. You'll get a certificate. Maybe soon you'll get a badge that you could add to your signature. And then educational providers, as well as parents and students, will be able to look you up and see if you're certified. We also got feedback that is very interesting from agents who completed the training, and they said the agents and counselor training is now part of our onboarding process for new student advisors. All new hires are requested to complete the training as part of their onboarding, so they found value in it to support early career advisors learn about the UK. So far, we only have we're approaching around 1,000 registered agents and counselors in MENA and 300 certified. So you're going to be early adopters if you join our hub. And this is the sneak peek to finding a certified agent. This is where students or parents or universities could look you up by your organization name, by your location, the country where you live, and by your last name. Before I leave you and leave the floor to our guest speaker, I want to highlight that the Agent and Counselor Training and Engagement Hub is not in a vacuum. It's part of a bigger picture, which is the UK Education Agent Quality Assurance Framework. It sits alongside other bits that I will not get deep into now. So there's the engagement hub, there's the counselors training that you already heard about, the National Code of Conduct. All of these are on our engagement hub. But then there's good practice for agents partnering with UK providers, so with universities, and good practice for guide for providers working with agents. So these echo each other. And then there's also student guides to choosing an agent and the database where certified agents are listed. So this is the bigger picture that the UK higher education sector partners work together to ensure a positive student experience and a quality student experience from the very beginning of making a choice, making a decision about their study destination or such study choices. All right, I am open for questions. Are we good on time?
Yes, Nesma.
Do we have a question, May?
Yes, we have here questions. Someone here is asking about the format of the assessment. You're asking what are the format of the assessment?
Yes, so the assessment is basically, so after you finish the module, you go to a separate page where the assessment is listed, and you do multiple choice questions for the most part. And then once you get an 80% correct answers, you pass the module.
And
more questions?
Yes, they are asking about if it is personal certificate or office certificate or both.
That's an excellent question. It's actually a personal certificate. You could add your employer or the agent as where you work or school in case of school counselors, but it's yours and it's under your name, and we don't certify an entity.
Yes, and someone's asking if the conditions for being an agent, but we share the link for the agents and counselors, but they are asking about the condition for being an agent.
So I'm not sure if we're asking about the getting an agent certificate or about regulations of becoming an agent, because this will be country specific. But if we're talking about getting the training and becoming a certified agent, anyone could just go on the hub, complete the training, and get the certificate, and they'll be certified UK certified agents or counselors. So the time, I see a question about the time. How long does it take to complete the training? This really varies from person to person, depending on your experience. For some people, it takes a few hours. For others, it takes a few days or weeks. And this is very flexible according to your schedule. So give it a go, log in, register, try it yourself and see how much it takes. And we encourage those who are experienced, to complete the assessments first, so that they don't have to go through the training if they already know the information. And yes, it is for free. Okay, so the main goal is to ensure that agents and counselors are well supported to do their roles and have all the information they need to support the students go to the UK. And so, yes, it is free. Yes. Okay. So with the technical issues, we could you guys please respond to the technical issues? Can you guys please just share the email?
Yes, sure.
Thank you, Mai. All right, I think we're good now. I'm mindful of the time, and we'll get back to all the questions in the Q&A section or the chat. So keep posting them. But now I would like to welcome our guest speaker, Ahmed Abu Shihab.
Thank you very much, Nisma, for having me. Hi everyone. It's really a pleasure to see all of you attending this very important session to talk about the future of the UK higher education and the Asian quality framework. I'll share my screen just to go through my presentation. And please, if you have any questions, just keep them to the end. But perhaps at the beginning of my presentation, it will be very useful just to give you a brief of what BUILA. So alongside my role at the University of Bradford, I'm also the chair of the Middle East and North Africa Regional Interest Group for BUILA. So the British Universities International Liaison Association, BUILA, is a UK-wide membership-led organization supporting the work and professional interests of staff working in international recruitment and liaising at UK higher education institutions. BUILA currently has a membership of 144 UK higher education institutions, and there are over 2,000 international recruitment professionals working at those institutions who utilize the BUILA resources. BUILA's activities are focused on the needs of members, identified through feedback and consultation, and delivered by its team and executive committee. So this is just to give you an idea of what BUILA is. And you can visit the website of BUILA just to show you that more than 600,000 international students are currently in the UK, generating more than 40 billion pounds in terms of revenue coming from UK international education. So just to give you, I mean, I didn't really put any information on the UK sector update because I know that Nisma will give you all the information after my presentation about scholarships and what the update from the region. But if I want to share with you my experience on what is happening in the region, every day there are new agents, and it's now becomes down. Back in the days, I used to have students flying from one country to another to submit their application, where now things are completely changing. Some agents are utilizing on the AI platforms to filter applications and to support more students. Now it's become down to the services that you offer to students and your relationship with UK universities. It's become really quite difficult for universities to, again, especially with bad practices on taking the next step of terminating agent contracts or supporting the good agents moving forward. We also see an increase of sub-agents, perhaps not that much within the MENA region. We see it maybe more in South Asia, India, Pakistan, and other markets, but it is growing in the MENA region, and it's quite important for you to consider and take into consideration the quality sub-agents that you want to work with, and how you would support students who are coming through these sub-agents, because eventually they are your students. So the BUILA, the British Council, and the UK higher education sector came with the agent quality framework to basically regulate or come with the steps that you need to consider moving forward, so that you are on the good book for the UK universities. We all speak to each other as UK higher education institutions, and we do consider, the GDPR in terms of, the agent names and everything. But at the same time, universities have some concerns about maybe certain issues for students who are perhaps not meeting the university's quality standards, and so on. So I'll give you more information about the agent quality framework, and you will see the steps that you need to consider as an agent, and how to work with your students and also with the institution that you work with. So this agent quality framework research and the key findings is actually starting from the initial research conducted by the UKCISA and BUILA on agents in 2021. From the research, BUILA and the sector decided to establish the agent quality framework to ensure quality through the sector, and to importantly provide the best possible experience for students. Students overwhelmingly happy with agent services, using agents to help understand complex information, wanted more clarity and transparency, highlighted the importance of education agents to UK higher education institutions and students. So providers varied in levels of experience, opportunity to share good practice and insight. We wanted to ensure universities are working with agents effectively. And that, again, just will take us to the next point, which is agents wanted more unified and simplified communication and information sharing. So the British Council developed the Agent Communication Hub. The point which is around the clearer guidelines and sharing of best practice, but retaining ease of doing business with the UK. Agents, highly valued, professional development, wanted more accessible, affordable training, applicable for new and experienced counsellors. British Council updated their training and made it free for all agents. So I've seen questions around whether it's free or it's chargeable. It's completely free for agents. Aggregators and digital agents. So the agent quality framework still applies and still apply to also sub-agent networks. As I've mentioned, it is growing in the MENA region, and it is in the interest, it must be in the interest of agents, the mother agent, of making sure that the sub-agents are also follow the agent quality framework. So here is the basically the elements, the agent quality framework, which is made of 5 elements. The national code, which all agents sign and agree to when completing the British Council training. This will now be included in contracts with universities. Good practice guide for agents, best practice for agents working with UK education providers. The student guide, which is helping students understand how agents are supposed to support them. So the guide advises students to check if their agent is on the British Council agent database. And then the agent training hub, free training for agents. So the agent quality framework pledge universities signing up to commit to the principles and guidance of the agent quality framework. So the National Code of Ethical Practice for UK education agents. So you've got the agents, universities, and students told us what they want, and that is around the standard partners agents should adhere by. So it's a clear set of standards required by UK education providers to help ensure quality practice amongst UK education agents and expose the small amount of poor practice. So the National Code is designed to help, one, you as an education agent to demonstrate that your practice is of the highest standards. Second, UK internationally facing education institutions, all sector, not just higher education, to drive best practice together with the education agent partners. And thirdly, international students, parents, guardians, and decision influencers to be confident around the use contracted education agents. And that again will take us to the standard, the National Code standards, which is around 5 core standards. And you can see starting from, let's say, the student center practice is how would you support your student? What would you do to make sure that your students get all the support through? From the beginning, you generate the lead until you complete, the whole process, and that student enrolls in one of the UK higher education institutions. The organizational competence, the organizational behavior, the ethical business practice, how would you save the student data? What would you do in terms of taking into consideration the GDPR and other best practices? And finally, the objective advice and guidance. So moving into the implementing the National Code of Ethical Practice. We've got a number of points here, starting with institutions are embedding compliance with the National Code into education agent contracts, phased approach as contracts need renewing, allowing time for education agents to adjust their practice if needed, legal templates on how to embed the agent quality framework, and agent contract shared with higher education institutions, and then a new module on the code has been created as part of the revised British Council Education Agent Training. Increasingly, British Council agent training will be a new requirement in provider education agent contracts. So communication to students, to advise them, to check agents have signed up, to the code when selecting the education agents. So all UK universities will include the national code in their agent contract from now on. And agents need to complete a module on the national code when they complete the British Council training. So the good practice guide for UK education agents partnering for quality. You have this guide, which is an agent on good practice when working with UK education providers, cover these areas. Highly recommend agents to look at them. And these kind of, just to give you an idea of what the good practice guide for agents looks like. And I'm sure Nisma will share the details and the presentation later on. So to give you an example,
interrupt you for a second. Do you mind doing the presentation on presentation mode? We've got requests because it's pretty small from our end.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Can you present on presentation mode so you could just make the presentation a bit larger?
Okay.
The slide share. Yes, that's it.
Perfect.
No,
Can you see it now better?
Much better. Yes. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Looks great.
So here, just to share some good practice guide for agents content. So we put a few examples here, which is working with a new institution, for example, involves a two-way partnership, and you need to have confidence that you are partnering with the right institution for your business. During selecting phase, do not be afraid to ask questions and discuss marketing plans, resource requirements, training needs, institutional support, expectations, the use of sub-agent frameworks, and expected service level on the side, etc. So the relationship between agents and institution works best as a partnership. make sure you set jointly agreed goals that work for both of you, and you are clear on support provided by the institution. And we do this as a university also all the time, where we set targets, we set how we work together, what the support is needed, and especially for new agents, it's very, very important that you do understand from both parties what the expectations and what the objectives for the year. So to give more examples as we go through the presentation, so education agents and digital agent networks, which is the agent aggregators, brokers, and marketplaces, should be able to tell their partners how they intend to manage their sub-agent network aligned with their expectations. As I've mentioned to you, perhaps it's not really a big issue around the MENA region, but we've seen it in other regions where you've got major agents working with a massive big number of sub-agents. So it's worthwhile just to take it into consideration on how you want to work with your sub-agents, especially around the applications, the quality, the market diversity, the conversion as well, and demonstrate how it will work in practice. Again, transparency and honesty are key there. So good practice thing that the financial relationship between education institutions and agents must comply with several UK laws. You must be aware of your responsibilities to comply with the Competition Market Authority regulations. So we ask students how education agents could improve their services. And what they came back to us was quite interesting, which is provide expertise and advice, but allow students to make the decision. So I know sometimes you work with a very limited number, could be of universities, but at the end of the day, I feel that your job and my job is to transform student lives and to put them in the right pathway. So even though you give them the advice, but you need to allow the students to make the final decision where to go. This insight influenced some of the content of the National Code of Ethical Practice for UK education providers. So we do understand that you are a commercial entity, so this is not always an easy one to navigate, but note it is something students are aware of. So students will also be aware of the the National Code of Ethical Practice, so they will know also the rights as much as you. So as word of mouth is your #1 marketing tool, it is in your interest to guide rather than place students. So we asked students how education agents could improve their services, and they also came back to us to say be more transparent about the overall process and fees. Note that the earlier comment about having a student education agent contract, a signed declaration which lists the services provided and any fee that you may charge the student. You do not have to say how much you receive from the partner institution, but it is important that you tell them that you have an agreement with the partner institution and you will receive payment if the student enrolls with them. And I think this will be something for you to take back, because this is what will be part of the national code, and this is something students will be aware of as well. Also, they came back to say publish, share student placement success rate and stories. So you need to be more engaged with students, not just only before you place them in universities, but also after and beyond, and use them as maybe as a case study or examples where you can share with other potential students. Or go one further and engage some of your enrolled students in partner institution to chat with prospective students through peer-to-peer software. So you may need to invest in one of the softwares to do that. There is an increasing amount of evidence that using your enrolled students to help with promotion and explain your services will result in better recruitment outcomes. We, as UK higher education institutions, we use our graduates, alumni, in our marketing tools, when we attend events, some of your recruitment fairs. when we engage some of our graduates and be able to use as a role model to speak to potential students and share the key selling points in our institutions. So you may need to do the same and use some of your students who are actually studying in any of the universities to also advise and to counsel new potential students. So the good practice guide for agents, the content, the student guide on using an agent emphasizes students will be encouraged to check the British Council training database. So students want that the agent who's representing the provider has been vetted by experts and formally approved to act on the provider's behalf. They expect the agent to have been adequately trained by the provider and have the skills and support in place to deliver an excellent service on their behalf. I know for sure, for example, my team, across all the regions that we cover, we do training for all our agents. And please, even if any of the UK higher education agents are now providing you training on the courses, location, some of the key selling points that you want to get to know about, it's now part of your role to approach that institution and ask them to train you, so that you are aware of, from a knowledge point of view, how to counsel the students, but also when you counsel the students, that they will feel and they will sense the knowledge and the expertise within you and your teams. So the student guide on choosing an agent, as I said, it's become really necessary for all the agents to follow. So the student guide encourages students who are thinking of studying in the UK to check whether the agent has completed the British Council training and committed to the National Code of Ethical Practice. Check if agents are listed on as official partners on the of the institution. Expect being open and transparent over the fees paid by the institution and any additional costs. Also question any offers to hold money or pay fees on their behalf, and expect to be guided but not pushed to a specific institution. So we basically, the Agent Communication Hub, which is the British Council Agent Training and Communication Hub, agents should be familiar with this now. British Council should have already updated them. So a central resource hub for education agents provides the online training program, resources, including the Code of Ethics, guides, marketing material, event calendar and sign-up, announcements, database of certified agents, that will be also, it's already there, future two-way communication, forums, etc. So the UK International Education Pledge, which is around the agent quality framework, it's a commitment by the sector to maintain the high standards of agent management, a demonstration to the government of the UK higher education sector's commitment to self-governing. Because again, this is something we had back as part of the BUILA conference in July 2023. We want to be able, as a sector, to be able to self-governing the agents that we recruit. Because if we leave it to the UK government to come with the new policies and regulations, then it might become a very rigid and difficult for agents, and we don't really know how or what kind of policies and rules that they will come up with. So we decided as a sector to be committed to self-governing and comes with the agent quality framework and apply it in working in close hand and relationship with the British Council. So institutions are also committed to empower students' choice and enable informed decision making, ensure good agent governance and professionalism, promote ethical agent practices, professional knowledge and competency, and increase transparency and accountability. So here there are some also kind of colleagues from the BUILA, along when they the blade shows UK Unity for Agent Framework. Here, the UK International Education Sector Pledge. As an institution, we are committed to the UK Agent Quality Framework and pledge to create and maintain the high standards of age management, ensuring the UK remains a leading study destination for international students. The undersigned institutions hereby commit to empowering student choice and enabling informed decision making. So this is to give you most of the universities that can give the pledge to be part of it. But it's not really all the institutions, because we've got now 88 universities now. 88 universities have now signed the pledge, which they will follow the agent quality framework, and again expect their agents to follow the same. So we have not. So on this slide is just how the agent quality framework have been implemented across the sector. So we've got the training workshop for providers. Around 900 UK university staff have completed the program on best practice in working with agents, focus on selecting, training, planning, supporting, and reviewing. So training for other key education sectors, English language, further education pathway providers, and boarding schools. Expand the pledge to wider sector partners. Just for example, IDP has committed to ensuring all their UK-facing counsellors complete the British Council agent training, further discussions with other agent partners to follow. So the British Council and the BUILA, the British Universities International Liaison Association, face-to-face and virtual agent engagement events and workshops on the good practice guide for agent planned in each region in 2024. So the guide for students will be promoted by the British Council and directly to students, driving awareness of using agents signed up to the code and training. So why is this important? So the UK is developing a world-leading framework to deliver a fantastic experience for international students using education agents to support their choice to study in the UK. So the framework is rigorous without being overly regulated. It has the support of key UK government departments and all key sector bodies. It is inexpensive and not too time consuming, and that is quite important for all the agents. So we need everyone to ensure quality, agents, institutions, government and sector bodies to work together to ensure we remain world leading and provide the best student experience. So what's next? You can download the good practice guide for agents, register on the British Council Agent Hub and complete the agent training, sign up to the National Code of Ethical Practice, and distribute the student guide to choosing an agent. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I'm open for any questions.
Cannot thank you enough, Ahmed, for this presentation. I'm personally very excited about the guides, and I see how they very much echo one another, one from the perspective of agents and another from the perspective of universities and the student guide. So it brings the whole picture together, and I think it's very useful.
It's 100%. I think agents will see it as it's another pillar of what they do. Sometimes going through a change is difficult, but it is the right step to support agents. Actually, it's in the favor of supporting agents, and also to work hand in hand with the UK higher education institutions.
Yes, 100% agree. We have questions, don't we?
Yes. Please go ahead.
So they're asking us if the presentation could be emailed later, if you're happy for us to do that. But we had questions earlier from the, if we don't have questions in the chat, we had questions earlier in the registrations. They were, attendees were asking what is BUILA doing with UCAS in order to support student experience? And you shared with me a brief response that I think is brilliant.
Of course, thank you, Nisma. So we'll work with UCAS in prioritizing UCAS implementation through various regional interest groups. So we keep university recruitment staff updated on the developments to support local UCAS application centers, agents, and international schools. We provide feedback from our members to UCAS via the International Advisory Group, the IAG. This includes providing feedback on areas such as incorporating a wider range of international qualifications into the UCAS form and how to improve the international application journey. We are working with UCAS incorporating the Asian quality framework.
Thank you very much for that. And there was also another question that came in the registration form. It's from parents and educators who are and agents who are receiving concerns from parents about the student experience within the current geopolitical situation. So the students experience far from home, and what is the sector doing to support students coming from MENA region while studying in the UK?
Well, again, I mean, I will give you just the kind of, the formal kind of answer, and I'll give you my experience on this. But BUILA members, I mean, put the safety of their students first and have systems to ensure whatever and wherever the conflict they are supported with a university environment. It is within the university, and the UK is a multinational country with the students from all over the world. So universities normally have a dedicated on-campus security team that provides students with a range of services. An example from any university in the UK. So we've got, for example, 24/7 CCTV that can be used upon request to follow students back to on-campus accommodation, a permanent point of contact for all the students. I mean, most of the universities, they have an international student advisor, which they can reach to, expand the student-facing hours over the weekend and evenings to provide fast response to emergency requests, partnership with local police teams, the Miller's taxi take me home scheme allows students to use different, the ID card and access to different buildings. The Safe Zone free mobile app for all student emergency requests. But with all of this is kind of a formal kind of answer where my experience, I am from the MENA region myself, and I used to be an international student myself, and all I can say that the UK is a cultural place, and wherever you go around the UK, even with the conflict, you've seen it on the news where from both sides, and all I can say is you've got the support from the universities. Whenever you need any help or service or someone to speak to, there are always someone there. There is an international student advisor. There are societies, and I'm sure from wherever you are coming from in the MENA region, you will find in the university you're recruiting your students to that there is a society. It could be a Kuwaiti student society, or a Jordanian society, Egyptian society, Lebanese, and you can always also reach out to your cultural office, your embassy down in London. We, as UK higher education institutions, have direct contact with embassies around the UK, and we're always on the front face with the students. So from a safety point of view, with everything that's been happening, I haven't really come across any issues on my campus, because we always, even our vice chancellor, always kind of give speeches, and we promote equality, diversity, and everything on our campus. So on that point, I can assure you 100% that the safety, especially in the UK, is a very multinational country, that the support is there.
Thank you so much for this elaborate response from a formal perspective and from a first-hand experience. Isma, do we have other questions, colleagues? I think. Okay, so yeah, so I think we don't have any more questions.
Thank you.
But I
Thank you,
cannot
Nisma.
thank you enough, Ismat, for today. I know you had a very, very busy schedule and still have a busy day ahead. So
Thank you.
very, very appreciative that you're with us here today and you walked us through the Agent Quality Framework.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna head back to my conference
Yeah.
downstairs. Thank you
I'll
very
leave
much
it your
for
day.
having me. I wish all the best to all the agents here, and looking forward perhaps maybe to see you at some point face to face when we do something on the ground in one of the
Yes.
countries. Thank you. All
Yes,
the best.
yes, yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye. All right. So next up, we said today was a packed agenda, as you know. Did I freeze? Am I? No. All right. So it's a packed agenda today. Coming up is UCAS presentation on student journey by Becca Horsley. Hi, Becca. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, nice to see you again, Nesma. Thank you for having me. Yeah, so if everyone's ready, I'm here from UCAS, so I'll go right into my presentation. I've had some of your questions in advance, so I've tried to answer some of those during the presentation, but we've put some of them at the end in case we don't get time to go over those as well. Just waiting for the slides to come up. Okay, so as I said, welcome everybody. I'm here from UCAS and I am the Customer Success Partner for International Advisors. So my role is focused on creating support, advice and resources available to support international counsellors, agents and independent advisors. So that involves things like doing training sessions like this, but also making resources to have on our website with a specific international focus. So in this session, we're going to have a quick look at the key UCAS cycles, so some dates, deadlines, a couple of trends in the MENA region, so what's happening with your applicants, some key reforms and changes that have already happened and are upcoming within the UCAS application, and then the tools that are available to you as advisors to help you support your students. So firstly, looking at this overview of the cycle, so as you can see, we have just passed the January deadline. So we'll start from the beginning. We have the 16th of October deadline. This is for those very competitive courses and institutions of Oxford and Cambridge. So we did have some questions about medicine. For students who are looking at medicine, they're going to need to look for that October deadline for the October 2024 for the 2025 intake at this stage, if that's what your students are looking for. And the reason for that is because a lot of these very competitive programs will have an interview process. So this just gives them that bit more time to kind of get that process ahead of that January deadline so they can start making those decisions. We've just passed last week the equal consideration deadline on the 31st of January, but this doesn't mean that you're not able to apply anymore. So if you've missed that deadline, all that means was that universities up until this date have to consider all applications equally and they're not allowed to close their courses before that date. So after this date, there are plenty of places still available. Most universities will have places for you. So if you didn't make an application yet, you can still do that up until the 30th of June in the main cycle. But for the people who did make that deadline and put in their applications, we have something called UCAS Extra. So this is for people who maybe were unsuccessful with the choices that they applied to in either January or October, or for people who receive offers during that period, but they decide they don't want to take it. They may have changed their mind about the kind of institution that they want to go and study at or the course that they're wanting to take. So when UCAS Extra opens, the only rules around putting yourself into that is that you are not waiting on any decisions from institutions you've previously applied to, and that if you're holding an offer from an institution, you need to decline that offer before you can enter into UCAS Extra. And then Extra works that you can apply to one opportunity at a time. You wait to hear back from them. You decide if you were successful whether you want to accept that. If you accept that, that's then your choice. If you choose to decline that or you weren't successful in that, you can then move on to the next choice one by one until you receive something that you're happy with. If none of that really works for you, we also have our clearing cycle, which opens on the 5th of July. And that will run all the way through till the autumn. Although for international students, if they're going to need a visa to study in the UK, we would recommend trying to get ahead of the game with that, just because you don't want to be kind of rushing, panicking for your visas at the last minute. So in regards with data, UCAS has a wealth of data because the vast majority of applications in the UK will come through us. So we can see where people are applying from, the kind of qualifications they're applying with, and what institutions they're looking at. And a lot of this data is widely available on our website for free. I'm going to be sending out this presentation afterwards with the links, so you can have a look at some of this data for yourself, filter it down to what's of interest to you. And you can use this data to have a look at the trends of courses that are becoming popular. And you can also use it to see the kind of numbers of students coming from each region. I'm going to go over that a bit later in this presentation, but just if you're really interested in your region, that's going to be something that you can use to kind of guide your students better. And this is how the dashboard would look for you if you're going to use it. As you can see down the side, you can filter by domicile. You can also filter by gender. So for example, if you're in a school that's only male, only female, you can do that. And you can also look at the age of students. If some of your students are perhaps taking a year out and then applying a little bit later, you can look whether they're going to be in a similar age group with the peers they go to university with. So this is the MENA data for the last 2 cycles. We don't yet have the data for this January consideration deadline because it was only a week ago. But as you can see, the applicants from the region, apart from Egypt, Oman and Qatar, they have been sort of steadily increasing. And the vast majority of applicants, with the exception of Kuwait, are applying by that January deadline. So to kind of take a look at that, you can see roughly the split of numbers, which countries are sort of getting the big senders, and what kind of time in the cycle they're applying. So you can see the largest sender is the UAE. And this is based on where students are domiciled, not what their nationality is. So there may be students from many other nationalities included in this data. So as you may be aware, as people supporting students, we have introduced a new reference process for this year. So we're just going to do a quick refresh on that in case you haven't come across it yet, or you're still a little bit unclear about how that works. But just to point out that the process is slightly different if you're supporting your student as a registered centre, or they're applying as an independent applicant and just using you as a referee. So if they're linked to you as a registered centre, whether you're an agent or whether you're a school, that means that you will have oversight of their whole application, and you will normally be asked to input predicted grades as well if their qualifications are still in progress. An independent applicant will just receive an email request from UCAS. They will not have oversight of everything that's in the application. So if you're working with a student, think about which one of those is going to be best. Do they need your full support, or do they just need you to do that reference for them? So the reference is split into a 3-section approach. So section 2 and 3 are the same, regardless of if they're applying as an independent applicant and you're supporting with reference only, or if they're going through a registered centre. So we'll go over those quickly first, and then we'll go into the difference. So section 2 is about extenuating circumstances, and this is specific to that student. So this is something that may have happened to them, which has impacted on their studies. So for example, if the student has been unwell, they've had a bereavement in the family, and that has impacted them, you can put that in there so the university is aware. If there's nothing to say in there, they've had a completely normal educational experience with no significant struggles, that's fine. There's an option to leave that blank. It's not mandatory that you fill that in. And if something changes after you submitted the form, so for example, they become unwell afterwards, you can contact the universities afterwards just to tell them and update them on that situation. Section 3 is more about positive things that you want to say about the student. So for example, the student probably knows what they're very good at. So for example, they're applying for medicine, they know they're very good at science probably. But you might know as their advisor that they actually got the top grades in biology in your school 3 years running. So you can put something like that in to really strengthen their application and make that really stand out as a candidate to the universities. And then section 1 is where you explain why you are the appropriate person to be providing this reference if you're doing it as an independent referee. So you can say you were their previous teacher, or if they've been out of work for, out of school for a significant amount of time, you could be the employer providing a reference. So you can just explain how it is you know them and what gives you that knowledge about them to be doing that reference. If you're doing this as a registered centre, this is where you provide the context on your registered centre. So for example, the size of your school, what curriculum you're studying. You can also put in here any issues that have impacted your whole cohort. So for example, if you had a school closure due to some damage, or if one of the teachers was off for a considerable period of time, so they've had disruption in their learning, you can put that in there as well to give a bit more context to the university. And we would like to remind people that if you're an agent supporting someone, that you need to think carefully, because it's going to ask for predicted grades if you're the registered centre, that you may need to work closely with the school on this to make sure that the person best placed to be giving those academic predictions is the one filling in this section as well, just the person who's going to best be able to support that application. So we ask that you kind of work collaboratively with the schools to give the agents the best chance, the students the best chance. And then these are the resources that we have available to support you. So there's some sample references, some videos that you can watch about how to do a good reference, and we'll share this with you later so you can access those if you wish to. And then the next change is something that's going to be upcoming in the future. So this is a proposed change to the personal statement. So I would like to emphasize this is not happening in this cycle, and it will not be happening in the next cycle either. So the earliest that this will be introduced is in May 2025, ready for the 2026 cycle. And the reason that we're proposing this update is a lot of applicants do find that a personal statement is helpful because it helps them decide exactly why it is they're studying that course. It helps firm up that this is the right decision for them. And although that's useful, they do say that they find it a very, very stressful experience. Nearly 83% of the students that we spoke to. Obviously, we don't want to be causing students any more stress than they're already having, going through this difficult time in their life with exams, sort of finishing up school, picking where to go, especially when we know that going abroad is such a big decision for many of these families. So applicants also said that they rely quite heavily on support from other people to make sure this section is correct, and this disadvantages some students depending on that quality of support that they have available. So we're proposing to segment the personal statement into 3 different sections to enable students to feel a little bit more in control of the process. And this is based on the feedback that students have given, that they want to feel their voice is really being heard. The key points that we're looking at making are going to be extracting the information that universities have told us that they want to hear. So one will be likely motivation. So that's kind of, why do you want to study this course? Do you have a career in mind? Do you understand what will happen? What's available to you with this qualification? Preparedness for the course. So how has previous learning or things that you've done outside of your school, so extracurricular activities, prepared you for this course? So this could be very direct. It could be, I studied biology, so I decided I like that, I want to study medicine. Or it could be, I really enjoyed doing a lot of research in my history class, which I think is a transferable skill for a law degree. And then there's preparation through other experiences. So that can be how you have independently pursued this interest. So for example, you could say, if you're applying for veterinary medicine, I'm very passionate about animal welfare, so I volunteered at an animal shelter to gain that hands-on experience. Nearer the time, when we're a bit more determined with what these questions are going to actually be, we'll be offering more updates, and we will be doing training sessions on this when it's a bit closer to the time. And then these are some updates to the resources that are available to you to support your students. So we have something called the UCAS widget, and this can be hosted on your site. This is relevant whether you're a school or you're an agent. There is a specific international version. So when you go to this link, make sure that you're picking the international one, because it will also link through to signposting other important resources for international. So it will link, for example, to UKVI pages for immigration advice. It will link to resources on language testing, which are only relevant to international, so it's going to be really useful to you, your students and their families. And we've also recently launched our new UCAS International app. So this has resources for both undergraduate and postgraduate. So I know there are quite a lot of questions that came in about postgraduate courses, because those are generally not hosted on the UCAS site, except for sort of government courses such as social work and teaching. So you can look at all of those courses there. There's also scholarship opportunities available on there, and we've made sure that those are the really up-to-date scholarships. A lot of work has gone into making sure they're the ones that are current. You're not looking at a link and then finding that's not available this year. It also has options to link you through to English language test bookings and discover accommodation once you've decided where it is that you're going to be going, to help connect you to those accommodation providers. And if you're going to be looking to work at the same time as you're studying, that's also something that you can use this app to locate, as well as obviously looking at the actual courses as a starting place. And this is available for anyone to sign up to. You can download it from any of the main app stores, so the App Store, the Play Store, things like that, and sort of have a browse. And it is available in other languages as well. And then the resources that we have always had available to advisors, just to signpost some of these in case people are not aware of them or they need a bit of a refresher. So we have our advisor guide, which is something that we produce every year. We keep it up to date, and we are looking to make one of these specifically for international going forward, to draw out some of those key issues. But there is an international section in this which will be relevant for you. We have some presentations that you can use in your classroom to introduce the idea of UK study to your students, and there's one for parents if you're going to be doing a family evening. There's a map of the UK, because we know that sometimes you just hear all these places. It doesn't really mean anything to your students, but you've got a student who thinks they'd really like to study by the sea. So you can show them on the map. That can help them kind of filter down those choices. We also have our monthly advisor newsletter that you can sign up to, and we run advisor lives every month. One of those is a specific international advisor live. That's actually today. So if you go onto our website in the next couple of days, there'll be the recording of that you can watch back. And if you're a registered centre, you can access our professional development platform, which has really in-depth training courses on all of these things that we've discussed. So you can use that to do things all from the very, very basics of what is UCAS, how do I write a reference, how do I use my advisor portal, up to more complex issues that you can kind of look on there. And part of my job is to build more of those courses. So if you see something that you think is missing, I am very happy to hear from you about resources that we can do to make your life even easier. And these are the teams that we have available at UCAS to support you. So the advisor help team, they will deal with kind of your day-to-day queries. So if you have a problem with submitting an application, with getting a reference through, they can help you with things like that. And then the training team, that's the team that I work within. That's for more specific inquiries about, is this resource available, or you'd like to come and have a presentation about a specific issue for your school. So thank you very much. As I said, Nesma did pass me some questions, so I'm going to just go over a couple of those now, and then if there's any that we don't get to or that are in the chat, I'm happy to receive those by email, and I'll come back to Nesma afterwards with answers to those. So some questions about grading systems and qualifications. So typically those will be available on the university's websites. If there's anything that you're not sure about, the university admission teams will be very, very happy to speak to you about that, especially if you're doing an unusual qualification. If you're doing quite a standardized international qualification, so for example, the International Baccalaureate, or you're taking international A-levels, you can use the UCAS tariff calculator on our website, and that will show you how that translates into those UCAS points. We are looking to add the more common international qualifications in there going forward, but we have to do it one qualification at a time, so we will be getting to some of the more global qualifications shortly. Questions about foundation years. So UCAS will include foundation years where it's integrated within the course that you're studying. For other courses, we would recommend, again, speaking to the university because they may work with a dedicated pathway provider and they'll be able to tell you which one that is and how to get in contact with them. Language testing, again, sorry, my answers for a lot of this are you need to speak to the university directly, but that's because their admission teams are really, really highly trained. They know exactly what their requirements are, and they'll be able to tell you exactly what they accept. I've seen some questions in the chat earlier about, do you need to take an IELTS? It will depend on what qualification you're studying. So some universities can take regional qualifications in the place of an IELTS, but that's something to check with them, obviously, before you commit to whether you're going to pay for a language test or not. Medical school entry, again, we've discussed that that would be the October early deadline. But also with medical schools, you need to check because some of them may have additional requirements, like you may need to take a medical admissions test, or they may have their own exams that they need you to sit, and most of them will have in-person interview processes as well. So you need to factor that in, that you may need to be travelling for interviews. Choosing the best university. So best is quite subjective. So we would say that the best university is one that you're going to do well at and that you're going to have a really nice time at. So as a colleague from BUILA was saying, it's not just about the academics. We also want you to have an enjoyable time in the UK. We want you to make those friends, come back having had a really nice time, making those networks for your career as well in the future. So we'd recommend using the search tool on our website. So we have things like city guides. So the cities in the UK are very, very different. So some are very historic, some are very modern and very large, and some universities are not really in cities, they're very campus based, that very sort of enclosed experience, which again is completely different. So if you're an outdoorsy person, you might want to go to one of those campus universities where you can walk out, be in the woods in 5 minutes, or you might want to be in the heart of London, really get that metropolitan experience, and that's part of this as well. And then you also need to look about the course, because the course, even though the title is the same, may be very different at different institutions. So for example, I studied English literature. At some universities that was very much studying Shakespeare and sort of very historic literature. Some universities it was studying 20th century literature, so completely different experience. So make sure that the content of the course is something that's going to be interesting to you. So you're going to be there for 3+ years. You need to make sure that you're going to be enjoying what you're going to study as well. In terms of careers, as I mentioned, you can use that data that we've got on our website to kind of look at the trends in what people are applying to. And then if you're thinking about if you want to stay in the UK after study, that would be something that my colleague from UKVI will be able to speak to you about if you're wanting to discuss future career options and how that feeds in. I saw there was a question about qualifying for medical jobs in other countries. If you're looking to work internationally, make sure that you check with them that a UK degree is accepted, which it is pretty much globally, but that if they have any additional requirements to kind of convert that degree if you're set on working in a certain country. And in terms of postgraduate study, this is normally done directly through the university, apart from, like I said, those statutory courses like teaching where it's done through UCAS. So you can speak to the universities directly, but you can use that UCAS International Hub as kind of your first port of call, and also to look at the scholarship opportunities available. So thank you very much. I think we've got a few more minutes if there's any questions come up in the chat, Nisma.
Yes, we do. Perry, would you like to share with us the question?
Yes, sure. Why not? So there is a question from Manu. He is saying that one of his students has already accepted an offer, but he wants to add extra choices. Is it possible? He had only chosen 3 choices during the first round.
Okay, so this will depend on when he applied. So what he can do is we'd advise if he emails in or phones in, and then they can discuss, because there are rules depending on how many days it was since you applied about this. But if he either is a nominated contact or he gets the student to call him with him, you can speak to our team. We can look at that and see if there are those options.
Cool. And there is another question from Hazem. He is saying that he cannot register his office with UCAS. So can you provide us or elaborate more on how to register offices or centers with the UCAS?
Yep, so we do have the registered centre process, which is an application form. Perhaps, Hazim, if you want to come, if I'll drop my email in the chat, you can send back to me what they said to you about why you couldn't become a centre, and we can look into that. It may have been an error or there may be a reason for that. But yeah, I'll drop my email here and then I can look into that directly for you.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much, Becca.
Okay, thank you very much. And I will, like I said, any questions I didn't answer that Nesma sent to me, I'll be emailing with the presentation. So there should be a bit more in-depth answers on some of those for you.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Nesma.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Perry. Thank you, Becca. That's been very useful. I'm not sure if Becca's still here. Oh, Becca's still here. Very, very useful presentation, comprehensive, and we only had I had another question, but we could do that later. And thank you for offering to answer the questions and send it to us, and then we'll circulate to attendees. Yeah. All right. So we're ready for our next presentation. Hi, Martin. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everybody. Hope you've all been having a interesting day.
It's
Greetings
been
from a very snowy Sheffield this morning.
I'm glad you finally joined us. It's been a packed agenda, and now we have Martin Folds from UKVI, who's going to answer the most pressing questions you have posted in the registration form. We had hundreds of questions for UKVI. Thank you, Martin. Would you like to briefly introduce yourself and then
Yeah, sure.
start your presentation?
So, morning, everybody, again. So I'm Martin from UKVI. I'm a member of the team lead on the engagement team. So what I've got for you this morning, a few little things. So I've got a little presentation just to kind of few numbers and figures to show you what it is that we deal with and have been dealing with over the last 12 months or so. A little bit on operational focus for 2024. Some information on the grad route and some information on like compliance and risks. I've also got quite a lot of questions, and you'll be pleased to know I've got some answers for you. So I'll start off with just some data analysis of what's been going on over the last 12 months. So to explain a few of these charts, you can see that we've had quite a significant increase of applications since the pandemic, and also since Brexit. We've obviously have to grant visas to our European Union friends as well. So we've gone from quite smallish amount. So we're now getting around 23,000 extra European Union students. And we've also seen a significant increase in applications from India, actually overtaking China over the last couple of years. So I won't bog you down too much with these. It's just trying to give you a bit of a background to the kind of volumes that we've experienced here over in the UK. We've also had a significant increase in dependents. Now, the majority of these are coming from Nigeria and India. Not sure why, but we've just got a big increase on them. Which is fine at the moment, but as you're aware, and I know that's quite a hot topic within the questions I've received today about the dependents. So there's some answers for that coming a bit further down in the presentation once we've got through these slides. We've also seen over the last 12 months or 18 months a significant increase in those who have come through from entry clearance and those taking up our leave to remain. So those who are basically finishing their studies and wishing to do like masters and PhDs and things like that. Now, moving forward for this year's surge, we're going to try and ensure and been working hard on our service standards. I know it's been a bit contention that a lot of cases don't meet the service standard that we promise online. But however, we actually achieve about 90%, 96% of all applications are dealt with within service standards. So it's quite a lot of, we get about 500,000 applications in a year. So I know for the customers that don't receive it within their service standard, it can be quite stressful, but we are actually achieving much better output than we have done ever before. We've also done a lot of reform to our back end, so like our customer service teams. So we disbanded what was our premium customer service team. So for those that don't know, it was a service we offered to the higher education institutions, and they had like a dedicated account manager who were able to speak within UKVI and look after like any problems we're having with any particular applications and things like that. But we've split that into 4 different teams, and we now have a dedicated engagement team. And we're spending a lot of time working, well, that's one of the reasons I'm here presenting to you today. So we're working within the sector, and we're also working with the unis to try and help them and educate them to make the application process smoother, so they know what they're asking their students for. Therefore, we can decide our applications for your customers a lot quicker. Lots of tools have been put into place as well to ensure that we actually, when we make the decisions, we make them correct. So we get the right start dates, we get the right end dates, the students get the right working hours and things that they're entitled to. Therefore, mean it's a less stressful experience for the students when they're coming over here to the UK. We want them to be able to come here with everything in place so they can start their studies and not have to worry about fixing end dates or working hours and things like that. We're also working with the universities as well, and with you guys as the agents and everything, to ensure that the students that come through onto our desks are actually genuine students. Again, that'll help speed up the process. One of the things we will say in UKVI have been trying to get out to the sector and to the wider audience is the importance of actually applying early. The earlier you apply, the better chance we have of making the decisions at the right time to get you over to start the courses when you want to. As you can appreciate, or hopefully you can appreciate, we have a surge periods, so everybody applies at the same time. So the applications stack up and stack up and stack up. If the applications are there in a speedy order, everything there is there, like the documents and everything that's required, the quicker we can make the decision on that application. Every now and again, you're probably aware, we end up having to have complex cases, and this is due to things that we have to do in the UK to make sure that the students that are coming are genuine. And again, that bolts on with saying, making sure that when you do make your customers or the students do make the applications, that everything that's required of them in the immigration rules is there and met to help for a speedy decision our end. So a bit bummed from the grad route, because I know this is something that's actually quite interesting to some of the questions that have come through. So we're getting quite a lot of graduate applications. That has a separate surge to say the entry clearance applications. So we're doing nearly 100,000 graduate extensions at the moment. And they're generally pretty good. So we only have about a 1% refusal rate with those. So the surge periods for those are slightly different. So you're probably aware our biggest surge is between like July and September for entry clearance. Well, this picks up in say September and January and May of all times. So compliance and risk. So we've got there. So refusal rates are slightly rising. That's due to issues that we've seen and problems that we're having with certain areas around the world. We have a few issues with asylum claimants, but again, that's something that we're working with the universities to bring back down, and hopefully you as the agents as well will be able to find and make sure that the people that you are putting through and coming to the UK are those that are actually going to be genuine students. So that's just a bit of a brief presentation about where we are with UKVI and where we are with the our decision making and things that we're looking forward to and things that we're trying to change in the future. So I wanted to put a bit of time more aside than was allotted for questions, because there was quite a lot, and I'm sure you're all really interested to know, especially around the dependents and all things like that. So I've managed to have a look at some questions that were provided to me earlier in the week. So I'll just go through a few of them because a lot of them kind of tag on to down the same kind of line. So we've got most students are interested to know post-study and visa work options. Sorry, excuse me. So as long as the student completes the course, they are able to work in the UK and apply for work visas. We have stopped and we don't allow switching now once in the country from a student visa to a work visa. But once you have completed the course, you are able to apply and look at staying to work in the UK. Next question was around Egyptian students. No, there's nothing different there. It's just the same as a normal student. Just have a look online. The immigration rules are there. There was no differences for different nationalities. The next one was about large sums of money in the bank account for potential students. We always say that if there's large deposits, as long as there's kind of an explanation to where that money comes from, it'll always be considered against the immigration rules. Any further higher study requirements after graduation? As long as you've completed the course and the uni is going to accept you, you can make the application, and it'll be considered against the immigration rules. A question around visas from Jordan. As far as we are concerned at the moment, there's no kind of issues with no rules going to be changed around those applications. What else have we got? So, Tier 4 study visa. We clarify what the new post-study students are not allowed to take is a phone. So that's dependents. I've got a few Q&As on dependents, which I'll get to at the end, because I know it's very much a hot topic at the moment, like I keep saying. American diplomas and GCSEs, English language generally looked at by the universities. Again, if there's any kind of confusion or you're not sure, the immigration rules is appendix student online. Have a look in there, and just I'll always say, if you're ever unsure, just send in as much information as you can. Student studied for several years in Saudi Arabia. So just make sure when they're applying or things like that, if there's anything that you feel that the student or the potential student needs to add to the application, there is a part on the form, on the VAF, that does say additional information. So put as much information as you like in there, and that's always considered and looked at by the caseworker. I think that covers a lot of those questions that were sent through. So we'll talk about dependents a little bit now. So we've got quite a lot of questions that come in about dependents in the last few months. So what changes are being made to the rules on dependents? So for courses starting from the 1st of January onwards, students are no longer able to bring dependents to the UK, apart from studying for a course where the provider is confirmed is a PhD or other doctoral qualifications, or a higher degree research that's research based. It's fine if they're coming financially sponsored by the UK or overseas governments. So I think that's like Fulbright scholars and the Marshall scholars and things like that. And as always, undergraduate students are not permitted to bring dependents, and that's not changed. That's always been like that. What about students who apply before July 2023 to bring dependents on courses starting after January 2024? The applications will have been dealt with under the rules that were in force at the time of that application. You may be thinking now, what does Martin mean by postgraduate research? So a research-based higher degree means a postgraduate program comprising a research component. So it's usually a requirement to produce like original work. So kind of like what I think a lot of scientists do with their PhDs. They have to discover something, happily to be corrected by people that know a bit more than me. Will students on professional doctorates be able to bring the dependents? Of course, that's fine. Some other questions around dependents. Let's have a look. So again, if they've started in autumn 2023, can they come in after 2024? So it's that only affects those students that are starting from the 1st of January. Can dependents extend their permission to stay in the UK if the student needs more time to complete their course, but the course is no longer eligible for dependents? So dependents that are already in the UK can extend their permission if the main applicant is granted further leave. So it's always based on what the main applicant is doing. So I'm hopefully that's answered some of your questions around what you've already sent in and some of the questions around dependents. I'm happy to answer any other questions for the remaining time that we've got. If any have been put in the chat or anybody's got anything.
Thank you, Martin, so much for this presentation and for taking the time to go through the questions and answer them. Especially the dependent visa has come up a lot. So I appreciate you taking the time to look at it. Yeah, would you, Perry, would you like to go through the questions in the chat? Or...
Sure. Thank you so much, Nesman. Thank you so much, Martin, for the informative session. We have a question from Soha Amara. How many months extended visa can an international student have after finishing his degree in order to have work experience or a job offer?
So all the undergraduate degrees, well, not all of them, but most of them, I think, within the context of that question, will get like a 4-month wrap-up period, which will allow them to remain in the UK before their visa expires.
And also, what are the conditions in order for an international student to get a LTR status after securing a job offer graduating?
So that would just mean they'd obviously apply down it through the work route, so they need like a certificate of sponsorship from the employer. And it's always best to speak to the university careers advisors as well, because they're pretty well placed to advise down those lines and what would be most suitable for that student.
Okay, another question from Hazem. He's asking if students cannot change from studying to working visa. Is it true?
Yes, no, but we've stopped that now. Yeah, you have to complete your student course before you can apply for a work visa in the UK.
I think this is the last question. Only 4 months extended visa.
Yeah, I think we may have got our wires crossed a little bit there to what they actually meant. Sorry, yeah, I thought you were talking about wrap-up times at the end of the course. I'm happy to. I'd have to go and speak to the colleagues on a different route about that. I'm happy for that question to be sent to me, and I can reply and get you an answer to that. Yeah, apologies for any confusion with that one there.
Okay, and also if you can share an info email or an email address that students or agents and counselors can reach out to you through.
Yeah, there might be something we've got. I'm not necessarily be able to share my personal email address. Otherwise, I'd never actually get anything done. It'll just be a constant bombardment of people coming to me. But I'm sure there's a mailbox somewhere that we can point people in the direction of.
Great, thank you so much, Martin. Over to you, Nesma.
Thank you, Perry, and thanks, Martin. I think we have one more one in the chat. When just posted, was it? When I studied in the UK, the country had fresh talent policy. Is there an equivalent policy for IT students?
I'll have to get back to you on that. I'm not sure. We do have like a high potential individual route that we do, but it's not something I've got an awful lot of experience from my end, so I wouldn't want to commit to anything right now on the call. But I'm happy for you, Neshma, to pop that in an email to me, and I can reply with an answer that you can get over to everybody.
Perfect. That would be great. Thank you so much, Martin, for today. It's been very useful, comprehensive, and We appreciate your presence here today. I will, of course, summarize the questions that came up and share back to you. And whoever had a question and you're registered here today, you will receive we will circulate the responses. So make sure you're signed in.
Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely day. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you so much. All right. So I'm mindful you have been sat here for quite a long time. We're almost approaching the end of the webinar, a bit early too. So, but I have one thing to share with you before you run and continue your day. I'm sorry for that. Oh, okay. So what I want to share with you is that besides the webinar, we have had in-country events across different countries in the region. This is a sneak peek into events that took place in Egypt and in Saudi Arabia for agents and for counselors. And there are upcoming events coming our way. We're going to have in-country events in Oman, 20th and 21st of Feb, UAE 27th in Dubai, possibly also another one for counselors early March in Qatar, having a webinar on the 4th. These are more tailored to you working in this particular country, and you'll be able to meet the team, the British Council team in country, and engage with our partners in face-to-face or in webinars like today. We're also going to be at ISIF Dubai. If you're going, meet us there, 14th to 16th of Feb. BMI Gulf Schools Forum, 28th and 29th of Feb. And how to know about our events, you're going to have to be on the Agents and Counselors Hub. So make sure you're registered and make sure you stay active on the hub so that you receive information. This is you have the link, we'll circulate the link, but my colleague now, Perihan, has shared on the chat the survey, the feedback form for today's webinar. We would appreciate so much that you give us your feedback about today, and we will be responding to questions that we didn't get a chance and our guests did not get a chance to get back to you on, and circulating in a week's time. But you need to kind of be on the registration or the sign-up sheet in order for us to be able to send you that. The webinar is recorded and will be also circulated to those who have signed up. And I have come to the end of my presentation. I'm happy to stay here until the end of the webinar, answer any questions from your end. Share with us your thoughts. If you're going to be in Dubai soon or in Oman soon, we'd love to see you in country. All right, so thank you so much, Becca, for being here, and for our guests who have shared with us their presentations and walked us through various pressing questions that our audience had, our agents and our counselors. We look forward to having you again in our in-country events, hopefully meeting in person. But also, we're looking forward to having everyone here be registered on the hub and complete their training and share with us your feedback and your thoughts. All right, so registration link, please, of course, just a second. Registration link. There you go. Here's the registration link. Thank you, Catherine. Yes, Laila, we're going to circulate the webinar. Make sure you are on our form, the sign-in form, so that you receive the link to the recorded webinar, of course. Meet you soon in Dubai. Yes. All right, I'm gonna leave you here. I'll stay around and answer anything that comes up in the chat until 2:30 Cairo time, 12:30 UK time.